Hey, it's Tony here, Ai2 Products, here to talk about the 3 generations of the BX tractor. So let's get into it and I'll kind of point out all the differences here. So we'll start here with the original, the BX 2200. This machine was built from about 2000 to 2008, 2009, I believe. I don't know yet. Don't quote me on the numbers because I don't know exactly. But, first off, I wanted to clarify that the generation thing is kind of an Ai2 thing. It's not a Kubota thing, some people call. And I've had people that are going to the dealers and they're saying, I've got a Gen 2 tractor. And they look at them like, huh? What the hell are you talking about? That's not a Kubota thing. That's something that I kind of came up with because we have 3 distinctive generations of the BX. These are what we consider the Gen 1 machine. We got mine here, which is a Gen 2, and then of course our 80 series Gen 3. But we'll start here with the original tractor, and this is kind of the one that got, put Kubota on the map when it came to subcompact tractors. And the subcompact tractor market is basically, Kubota kind of invented this market. And what it is a garden tractor sized machine that has all the capabilities and features of a compact tractor. So that's why they kind of fall into these subcompact, because they only go up to about the 25 horse, and you can get garden tractors that are in that 25 to 27 horse range, and physically they are about this size. But these have got a lot heavier duty features on them that make them compact tractors. So obviously you can see here from a Gen 1 to a Gen 2, we've got some very massive distinctive differences between styling and loaders and overall look of the tractor. The biggest obvious thing on these is the loader. These are what are considered the square boom loaders, where this has got what's called a curved boom. You can see it's got a curve to it, so obviously curved boom. And then we've got the loader ratings on these. Obviously on a BX, on a excuse me. Anyway. On a tractor loader backhoe like mine is, they'll just put, mainly you'll see the 25D or the 25 or 24, whatever model is, but this is actually a 240 loader. This is a 211. Now for everybody, or for most people that don't understand this, Kubota was pretty ingenious. I don't know if you want to call it that, but LA211 or LA240 is the lift capacity in kilograms, rated lift capacity in kilograms. So just so you know, if you see that number, that's what it really stands for. But the difference between this one, obviously the lift capacity varies because it's a slightly smaller machine, and the hydraulic output on this tractor was less than what this one was. I think these were like a 5.5 GPM pump, and then they went to a 6.6 GPM pump. Not sure what the pressure rating on these was. I know these are 2,500 PSI systems. These are probably a 2,500 PSI. I'd have to look and see. Don't hold me to that. I'm just a peon, so I don't know all the ins and outs. Of course, we got Angie behind the camera. She's the cute one. I'm just the one with whatever. So you can see, obviously, for you guys that have a 2200 or a Gen 1 machine, and now I should go over the Gen 1s are your 2200, 1800, 1500, 2230, 1830, BX22 and BX23 all fall into the Gen 1. Now repeat that 5 times. It's like, people say, how do you remember all this shit? And I'm like, I don't know, it just sticks in my head. But anyways, so this is pertaining to those model tractors, and when you're on our website, you will actually see, if you hover over the Gen 1, all those model numbers will pop up, so you can kind of see, okay, my tractor falls into this variant or this generation of tractor. But you can see the controls are pretty simple on this one. They actually use analog, kind of just your standard old gauge. Actually, it did have a fuel gauge. John Deere to this day does not have a fuel gauge. You buy a brand new 1 Series, and if their fuel tank filler is over here, they got this stupid little gauge that has a float on it that goes up and down, and when you're bouncing around, the gauge is doing this the whole time. So, John Deere, come on, I don't get that. But even this tractor had a fuel gauge on it in the dash, of all places. Crazy to put it in the dash. But I mean, the layout is the same. They got the old style hour meter on this one, and this tractor's got just about 1,600 hours on it. The guy that I got this from bought it brand new, and he loves the tractor. It's been a great machine. But you can kind of see that the basic layout is the same. I mean, your PTO selection is in the same place. Your PTO, your clutch engagement's the same place. All of the levers here are all in the same position, in the same place. They just look different. One of the big differences between a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 machine is when you take the loader off, the valve comes off with the loader, which kind of sucked, but that's just how they did it. So when you took the loader off, you had no hydraulic outlets. So if you bought an aftermarket, or say a Kubota blade or something else, I believe that came with another little valve assembly that you had to tie into it that would actually operate that attachment. But that was kind of how they did it on the first generation of the machines. They used a different kind of a rocker pedal. You know, this one was all exposed on top. It actually works pretty damn good. I mean, I actually almost kind of like this one better in some respect as the other one. But I mean, you still got your same height control here for your deck, your same valve control for your 3-point as far as how fast it drops. I don't know how many people realize it, but this valve actually adjusts the drop speed of the 3-point hitch. I'm sure there's some people that won't realize that, but that's on every machine. So if you got something really heavy on your 3-point and you've got this thing wide open, it'll just smack hit the ground. So you can turn that, I don't know if it's in or out, I'd have to play with it to remember which way. Probably in. If you turn it all the way in, it'll probably close it and it won't drop at all. So you can open it up so you can control how smoothly that attachment drops. The other big difference between on a Gen 1 Angelo is 3-point hitch. It really is the same 3-point hitch, but where they mount it is much different. Now if you notice on this one, this is all the way up. And we'll get to the Gen 2, because the Gen 2 and the Gen 3 have the same 3-point, but they raised the pivot point up quite a bit. So on a Gen 1 machine, a receiver hitch won't fit in here, and you can see why. There's just no room for that to fit in here. Now this one has one of my ball plates on it, so this is the option you can have for that, and it is specific to the Gen 1 machine, because they actually had 6 bolts down here instead of 4, which they're basically 1/2-inch diameter bolts. So it's like way overkill for what you need to pull a trailer on this thing. But otherwise, your PTO location's about the same place. You got kind of a similar little cover that pops up here. Your third link sits in about the same place. But one difference for guys that have like tillers or even box blades, mainly when you're running a tiller, because the buddy of mine that has that Gen 2 machine over there, he has a tiller on his, and that's one of the things that he doesn't like about the 2 and the 3 machines is when you're tilling something and you come to the end of a furrow and you drive out of the tilled area, this machine will actually keep the tiller on the ground. The other one picks it up off the ground because it raises it up to like chest height. I mean, or waist height. I don't know why they did that, but that's just the big difference between those two. Otherwise, you can kind of just overall see, I mean, same tire size, the same front axle. I believe this axle is the same axle they use on the new machines today, so that axle is identical. One other feature on the BX from all generations that has not changed, and you'll never guess what it is the fuel cap. It's the same damn fuel cap on this one as all on the brand new one. So they did maintain one standard feature on all tractors. Just kind of a trivial thing. But, and then of course this machine did not come with a quick attach. Neither did the Gen 2s until later on. And the other one, as far as on the loader with the cylinder sizes, we'll get into that as well. These are the same lift cylinders that the new machines are using. I'd actually have to measure them and make sure, but I believe the lift cylinder is the same, but the rollback cylinder is actually smaller on these. So the newer machines do have more rollback force or power than the older machines do. And one of the other big differences, you'll see that this bucket and this bucket are virtually the same bucket, but the difference is the mounts. Now this, and we'll get into this when I get into the quick attach, but for some reason on these mounts, this gap here is narrower than on the new machine. They just went to a wider mount. This pin stayed the same, and this is the same pin they use on the brand new machine. So this mount is different. It's actually a more beefed up mount, so the whole back of this bucket is actually pretty beefed up. Plus the gusset comes up into the lip, so it's actually supporting a lip. So in all reality, this bucket is actually one of the sturdiest buckets they built for the BX versus the other two, because they went to a, we'll get into it on the other one, but you'll see the difference between this mount and that mount. The outer mounts are basically the same. But one thing they did on these, which is odd for the new ones, if you see, they actually have a right and a left mount. So you've got a hard stop here, hard stop here. On the newer machines, they went with the same mount, but they use this mount on both sides. So the hard stop is on the inside on this one and on the outside on that one. That's kind of your bigger difference. And when we get into the quick attach install on this one, I'll point more of that out, but that's for the guys that this pertains to. Your kickstand assembly on this one is a little different, but it functions the same. You got this one has 2 release pins, where the Gen 2 just has 1 release pin. The brush guard's a little different. We can open the hood on this one, and you can see under the hood. These are 22 horsepower engines, where the newer ones are 23. This is the D905 model tractor, but you can kind of see it's the same basic layout. They didn't really change much here. You got your air cleaner on top, radiator. It's a rear-facing motor, so it's actually pulling cooling air through here and blowing it out the front. And that's something that Kubota's done pretty much on all their smaller tractors. You get into the bigger ones, then they reverse the cooling to more standard, where the radiator's in front and it blows it backwards. But on these, they did it just so you're not blowing heat onto the operator through the shroud of the motor. But overall on these, obviously there's no tilt wheel on this or the Gen 2 machines, but they did have diff lock on these. The brake is on this side, the parking brake, and just your standard brake is on this side above the pedal, which they did carry through to the Gen 2 machines. We'll get into that here in a second. But so yeah, that kind of wraps it up on the Generation 1 machine. So people kind of know what the differences is, what the ins and outs are. If you have any questions on this, feel free to shoot me an email, of course, and I can probably get into it in more detail.